Born together, made for elevation. I'm a soldier, won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath. When you pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath. When they pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. I'm glad you are all here tonight. We have exactly 8 days left before Election Day. Well, really 9. If we finish up today, it'll be 8. So we're getting down to the wire here. And we have a lot to discuss. We're going to finish up our discussions about the debate. But if you are new to the program, first of all, welcome. I am Joe Vollano. I am your host and your guiding light through all the information here with leading up to Election Day. And we'll talk about Election Day as we go. We have big plans for Election Day. We're going to look to do a couple things throughout the week to try to get people prepared and get some more information. So, as always, this show's always best when you want to participate, and you could call in 203-679-9610. That's the studio line, or you can email us at straighttalkjv@gmail.com. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you could always log into our chat. I see they are up and running, so, and I see the normal, and then a couple of new ones sliding in. So, They always have a great discussion over on the chat, and I try to keep up on it and answer any questions that you guys may throw on there. But other than that, let's dive right back into here, because we talked about this on Thursday. We went through a couple of debates. Most people, as you know, and I say it about 1,000 times on this show, that I try to stay out of Board of Ed stuff. But the Board of Ed debate was quite interesting. There are a couple things I want to talk about, because when people talk about the city not wanting to pay their fair share into the education system, or when we keep hearing for the past 12 years it's been flat budgeted by the city, it irritates me a little bit, because most people don't understand why that is, and from the city's perspective, and that they do get a rate increase every single year. So we're gonna go over that in a little bit more depth because again, it's one of the biggest misconceptions of what's going on in the city when it comes to education, especially for people like myself, who's every year is called someone who does not care about education, and that could be the farthest thing from the truth. So we talked about Area 4. They had their debate last Wednesday, and we talked about the conflict of interest that's going on with the fire chief. Now, again, let me make sure perfectly clear. He has every right to run for city council. He is a citizen of Meriden. He has every right to run for city council. Now, that said, if he is to win, he would have to resign from the fire department because there is no way he can sit there and conduct business of the city as a head of a department, especially the fire department. So if in some strange fantasy in their head, they think that they're going to carve out the fire department's budget from the regular budget, and they're going to vote on them separately, which first of all is not allowed via our charter. I know when during the mayor's race, Ms. Jelks joined in and said, hey, maybe you should learn the role of the mayor, look up the charter. Maybe she and the rest of the Democrats should look up the charter when it comes to Ken Morgan and how the budget works. The budget is not just picked a piece by piece, and voted on separately. The budget, when it comes out of finance, comes out as a budget. You vote on the entire budget because it's done for that reason, for a specific reason. If you have to move money around, which the city manager has the right to do so, you're able to. If you vote on them separately, and I think this is very important that people understand, if you vote on the fire department separately from the rest of the budget, now that isolates the fire department's budget. So all these overtime workers that are working emergency dispatch, that money would normally, I would imagine, has to be paid over from the dispatch center to the fire department to be paid. You cannot do that if you vote on them separately. You cannot do that. So that's just one piece of the conflict of interest that come into play. When you are the city council is the boss of the city. See, most people think, now, if we had a strong mayor, we'd probably be having a different conversation here. If we had a strong mayor and the mayor made the decisions, we probably wouldn't even have an issue here. But that's not the way our city's government is put together. We are run by the city council. The city council hires and fires the city manager. Now, you can't have an employee of the city manager then being the boss of the city manager. There are so many conflicts of interest there. But this is stuff Democrats don't want to hear about. Democrats would just point out, well, Ray Arlett works for the city. When you work for the city compared to running a department of the city, it's two totally different conversations. Like I said, if I had my way, we'd have a Hatch Act here in the city of Meriden where no city employee would be able to run for any kind of elected position. I like that. And they do that because it eliminates the conflict of interest. That's the point of it. There are so many conflicts. And listen, he's not the only one. Listen, I don't like anything that's going on when you have employees that are working for the city. I have issues with it, but it is what it is. That's the rules we have. I mean, you look at what's going on in City Hall right now, and again, you look on the Democratic side, half of them work for nonprofits that get money from the city, or they work for the city. So so for them to try to play it off as something that's just, it's no big deal. We've looked into it. We've looked at the ethics of it. Our ethics committee in the city of Meriden is a friggin' joke. And I hope the first thing Elaine Cariotti does when she's elected to be the city's first female mayor is that she takes the ethics department, the ethics commission, and actually just tears it down and starts all over. Because the ethics should be ethical. And I think after what we've seen with the whole Castro incident, with the Brian Daniels incidents, where there were clear-cut conflict of interest and ethical violations, they did nothing. And I want to get into Brian Daniels had a piece in the Record Journal a couple days ago, maybe like 3-4 days ago. I wanted to get to it on Thursday, but we ran out of time. Where he was stating all the great things that Democrats did, including the high school projects, which most people, if you remember, got robbed on that. And we're going to go over that because for Democrats to sit there and take credit for literally robbing the citizens of Meriden over $18 million to give a payoff to the unions, I think it took big balls from Daniels. But again, they use these little catchphrases and they use these little insinuations, and they hope that you're too dumb out there to realize what they really did. So we're going to get into that too, because I'm hoping that every single person here makes sure that they go out and spread the word on what's really going on. We've had some really great conversations over the last couple of weeks, including, not only the Hispanic community is really coming out, which I love. I love the fact that the Hispanic community is saying enough is enough. That's what I love, because they've probably been, out of all the segments of Meriden, they have been the most active this year. They really have. If you just sit there and listen to them, if you go out there and have the conversation, and we have, seniors in the Hispanic community are the two biggest ones of this year. And I think they are going to shock this entire city, because I think even they realize that what the other side is doing is just absolutely ludicrous and makes no sense. This is not the old-fashioned Democratic Party that's running wild here in Meriden. This is the new, progressive, out-of-control, social justice warrior mentality that's running rampant in Meriden. And I tell you what, for Hispanics, that doesn't fly. God and family is what leads, is what the true morals and values of the Hispanic community is. And that is not what you're going to find over there on the Democratic side. It is not. They're looking to break it down. That's what they've been doing since 1970. And we could really we really wanted to get into all that stuff. But I don't want to stray too far away from our current fire chief here. And then I'm looking through today. I'm looking through all the wish lists of the fire department. And again, reasonable request on most of them. But again, now how was one supposed to vote for that? You couldn't. So he put together 4 items for the American Rescue Plan. They total somewhere around, I think it was like $2.5 million. All good expenditures. But how would he be able to vote on that? He wouldn't. How would he even be able to attend the meetings on that? These are the type of issues. Again, if you work for the city, that's one thing. When you run a department, it's a totally different. So unless he's ready to commit to resigning as fire chief, if he was to win this election, there is no way you can vote for him. Now that's just a power grab. And he's no stranger to power grabs. If anyone remembers when he was acting city manager, when they fired Guy Scaife, when they fired him, they put him as acting city manager, and he wanted to do both. And then he came out with an idea. Wait a minute. Well, I'll just do both. And everybody, I think even some Democrats turned around and said, well, that would be an issue. I don't see how you could possibly do that. But listen, he likes power. He's a liberal. He likes power and control. That's what they were all about. If you look at anything they have done, It's all about power and controlling you. They love it. Exactly why I say the most important subject on this campaign this year is public safety. If anyone does not believe that, you are not paying attention. This really is. I normally tell people, don't vote on one issue. Look at it overall. No, if you're a one subject voter, public safety should scare the shit out of you on what the Democrats want to do. And don't let them sit there and fool you. Like I said, Bruce Fontanella let the cat out of the bag. Bruce Fontanella told you exactly what their strategy was. We're going to pass their normal budget before the election so we can sit there and say, we support our police department. Look what we did. We passed your budget. We gave you guys a raise, which they're entitled to begin with. We did this for you. We support the police. But then they turn around and say, well, we need to have more conversations with the police chief about CRB before we can vote on it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, anyone who believes that Sonia Jelks needs more time to talk to the police chief about it is crazy. They've had 6 months, almost 8 months of communications between the police department and city council. And every time those two get together, it never ends well. So here is what I believe is going on, and I've been pretty accurate the whole time. So, in fact, there's nothing I haven't been accurate about because I know liberals better than they know themselves. They're so predictable. So here's what's really going on behind closed doors, if you ask me. And I'm sure someone could verify this. So basically they're saying, hey, chief, we want to have a civilian review board. And the police chief is saying, no, it's not needed. Now, they've had many conversations over the last 6 to 8 months, and he keeps saying no. The brass of the police department keeps saying no. The people of Meriden keep saying no. But they need to have more conversations with him because he needs to come around. And here's what's going to happen. If Democrats win this election, you're going to see one of two things happen. One, the police chief's going to come out and support a CRB, or the police chief is going to be scafed. He's going to be guy scafed. Because this is basically what's going on. Hey, chief, we want to have a CRB. No. Chief, you should really reconsider a CRB. No. Chief, you should really consider a CRB. And if you don't think he's being basically threatened with his job, you're crazy. These people are out of their minds. Sonia Jelks, Tomasetti, Cortez, and LaRue Graham, and the rest of the morons, they are lost. They have lost their minds. If anyone thinks that the police chief would not be thrown out on his ass after election, if you let Democrats keep majority, you are living in a fantasy world. Because after that election, after this election next Tuesday, if Democrats are still in control, they are going to make one more attempt at making peace with the chief and saying, Chief, we need a CRB. And if he says no, or he doesn't compromise, his ass is out. Make no doubt about it. A man who just won an award, one of the top 3 police chiefs in the entire state. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound familiar? Guy Scaife was given a raise and praise just 2 months before they fired him. Not even 2 months before they fired him. And look what they did to him. You don't think that the police chief's gonna have the same fate? You listen and you do as this council says, or they will fucking get rid of you. They don't like dissension. They don't like to be told no. They're a bunch of spoiled little brats. They act like it. And they're bullies. They talk about me being a bully. They come up to me saying, Joe, you're a big bully the way you talk to us. Boo fucking who? Look what you do. Look at your actions. Look at your actions. How am I supposed to treat you? I can't have a reasonable conversation with you. I tried having a reasonable conversation with Cortez and with Tomasetti when they came up and decided to swear at me and yell at me because they said I was a bully. Well, boo-hoo. Ladies and gentlemen, and again, this question came up with the seniors. Well, why is there so much negativity? Why is there so much bitterness between the two? Well, look at what they're trying to do. Where is our starting point to meet in the middle? They were giving us none. Republicans have tried to make concessions and tried to meet somewhere in the middle. They want none of it. They are hell-bent on this social justice crap because they're trying to make names for themselves. That's what this is all about. This is nothing but politics. This is nothing but them playing political games, and you are a pawn in this game. And the police department is what's at stake. Public safety is at stake. They are playing Russian roulette with your life. Whether it's the police department, the emergency dispatch center, they are playing a political game. And there's a lot at stake. And they're hoping that you are asleep at the wheel come next Tuesday. That's what they've always done. 2 years ago, you have two people on the council. You have Crystal Blake and Tomasetti. If anyone remembers that campaign, they never said two friggin' words. They hid, because if they opened their mouth and told you what they really believed, you'd never vote for them. But because they had a D next to their name, they won. And now look what they're doing. The proof is in the pudding, people. I shouldn't have to sit here and explain it to you. Look at what they're doing. Look at their actions. And they're going to sit there and say, well, no, that's not what we're talking about. Yes, it is. And if anyone thinks this CRB, if they pass this CRB, if anyone thinks it's going to stay as just a review board, you're out of your mind. If you have learned anything about Democrats, if I have taught you anything about Democrats, is that they use everything as a stepping stone to something else. I really got on Republicans' asses with that whole race is a public health crisis. I got on Republicans. You guys probably remember that show. I mean, people wanted my ass because I wanted to make sure that they knew what was going to happen. That was just a stepping stone. Because now they turn around and of course they did it. They're like, oh, well, we have a racism problem in the city of Meriden. We voted on it and everyone agreed other than Bob Williams. That's the first thing that comes out of their mouth. That's the first thing. It's crazy. Ray, I don't know how you heard. Listen, we're going to get into taxes and stuff. But listen, taxes isn't even close to the top subject of this election. Now, Democrats, of course, are going to tell you, well, we didn't raise taxes for 3 years, but they won't get into the details of why that is. And they won't tell you that spending did not go down. Spending went up. But the fact that we got COVID money and the fact that we got money from Eversource were the only reasons why your mill rate didn't go up. Spending didn't go down. Spending went up. Let's talk about the referendum. The referendum. Anyone remember the referendum? Almost 6,000 people said, no, take this budget back and redo it. And what Democrats do? Okay, they cut the budget. But then when everybody wasn't paying attention, because again, it seems that the voter bloc of the city of Meriden has a very short memory. They have a very short memory. And Democrats count on that. Because just 3 months after they cut the budget and they claimed a big pat on the back, they took a big pat on the back saying, look at the great things we did. 3 months later, not only did all that money return to the budget, but we were $250,000 over when we first started. And not a friggin' word from anybody other than people like myself who sat there at city council and going, what the hell are we doing? What are we doing? All these people spent all this time doing the referendum, getting signatures, going out there, going to vote. And then they sat in the background as you got screwed, not only out of all that money back, but then an extra $250,000. And Democrats are laughing their asses off. Look at these stupid people. We got them wrapped around our finger. Wonder why they think they could do whatever they want. Wouldn't you believe you could? I know if I was a Democrat in this city, I believe I could do anything I freaking want. Because there's no consequences to it. There were no consequences. It's like your kid. If you don't sit there and tell them no, and keep consistent on it, forget it. You're screwed. They're going to keep doing it. We need to wake people up. They need to be woken up. And ladies and gentlemen, that's our job to do that. That's our job. We cannot afford to lose this election. There is too much at stake right now. Way too much. Democrats are scared. They should be. They should be. We have a strong slate that we're putting forward that have done a lot of hard work. We cannot let the Democrats keep control of this city. It will be detrimental to every single citizen here. Because this is what you get with another Democratic-controlled city council. One, you're getting a CRB. Now, this CRB is going to start as a review CRB. So basically that means it's New Haven's model. And if anyone thinks that it's going to cost only $6,500 a year to run, you're in friggin' fantasy world. The New Haven's spending over $100,000 for theirs. And they have the most anti-police person heading it, which just tells me CRBs are nothing but political tools to begin with and buy-offs. Because anyone who thinks that Malik Jones's mother is the best candidate to run a CRB is out of their fucking mind. Because she's the most anti-police person in this entire state. So let's just go there first. So who, God knows who they'll get to be the chairperson of this thing. But this thing will start as a review. Then they're going to be like, oh, well, no, we need to have more teeth. We need to be able to do something about this. And then they're going to try to turn it into Hartford's CRB, which is an investigative. Now, Hartford is broke as it is. They've already been bailed out for, I think, $250 to $350 million of your tax dollars from the state. And they decided the best way to sit there and combat this is to have investigative CRB, which is why you see police officers bailing out like crazy out of Hartford. In fact, I think three or six of them came here to Meriden to get away from there. Now, if we get a CRB here, you're looking at 24 police officers, high-ranking police officers, gone next year. That is a fact. They will be gone. They will take retirement because they do not need to deal with this kind of nonsense. They're not going to be micromanaged by untrained civilians who know nothing about what they do. We do not need a CRB board. We have a public safety commission on the city council that can take care of them. So that's what we need to look at. It is absolutely lunacy what's going on. And I'm just hoping, again, people are not falling for this. Democrats are never happy at the same level. They're always going to want more. They always want the next step up. The first step is bad enough. God only knows what else is coming after. They talk about morale at the police department. They caused it. They caused the issues there. And I tell you what, again, if we let Democrats keep control of this city council, we have a real risk of losing Chief Rosado. Because we're going to have to find out if he has a spine or not. Is he going to stand true to the no for the CRB, or will he have to fold to the politics? It'd be. I don't even want to see it. I don't even want to answer to that question. I really don't. No, it's just passing the buck. It's not that they don't have any confidence in themselves. It's they just don't want to do it. They're lazy as shit. You hired them. They get their little stipend, which again isn't much. But anyone who goes into public service for the money is going in for the wrong reason. They're going into it for the wrong reason. You were elected to do a job. Your job is to oversee the city. Why are you trying to pass the buck over to untrained people? You have more access as city councilors to get the training and the information you need than a civilian, a regular civilian. So it'll be quite interesting to see what happens. Again, it's in each and every one of our hands to make sure that that we're spreading the word, to make sure that we let people know what's going on. Then we had the Board of Ed. We had the Board of Ed debate or discussion, because it's not really debates, back on Friday. And I kept hearing this. We're 167 out of 169 in spending per pupil. And people say that's not enough. We need to put more money into education. Now, first of all, they have never had a flat budget. They have alliance grants and other opportunities for money from the state and federal government that they get every single year, and they get increases every year. If you look at the budget for the Board of Education, it has never stayed flat. It always goes up because they always get more money from the state and federal government. And rightfully so. They should. Because it's because of the state and federal government that we have, and Democrats here in the city, that we need more money. So what they don't tell you is, why do we need more money all the time? We keep putting more and more students into the school system every year. Think about that. As much affordable housing they've put in this city, and people that don't pay taxes, it has to be, the burden has to go on the people that do. When we had, 160 something affordable housing units at the mills, and they knocked that down, they said, we're going to have 200 and something. Next thing you know, we're at 500. That's 500 units downtown of affordable housing. Now, again, nobody likes to talk about this stuff because it gets makes people a little bit uncomfortable because they don't want to be told the truth. Nobody wants to speak about the truth. I do, even if it is uncomfortable. Because here are the facts. When you bring in affordable housing, you bring in more children to the educational system. Because those that are getting the affordable housing normally have one or two children. That's just a fact. When you bring in affordable housing, and the deputy chief pointed this out years ago, and he got crucified for it. When you bring low-income housing and affordable housing to an area, crime goes up. That is a fact. It is not a theory. It is a fact. No matter what the reason behind it is a fact when you bring in low-income housing, affordable housing as they like to call it, you get more crime, which means you need more police, and you get more children that you're putting into the social programs, which education. So now you're getting all these students in there from people that don't pay taxes. And remember, affordable housing units right now, they're not paying friggin' taxes. Penrose, they're not paying taxes. They're paying what, 20%? But you as the taxpayer are picking up the rest of the tab to put these kids into school because we have an obligation to do so. No, you're right. And you're right. The Board of Ed doesn't have anything to do with that. But neither does the taxpayer. Because the taxpayer does because they keep electing these morons that allow them to do it. So no one's taking a blow at the Board of Ed here, even though I do think that you guys do not represent what's actually going on in the correct way when it comes to the budget. The city can't afford it. The taxpayers of the city cannot afford it, which is why, yes, we are a distressed city. So therefore, the state and the federal government do put more money into the Alliance grants and other grants to make up for it. That is a fact. That is an absolute fact. Whether people think that's okay or not okay, doesn't matter. The taxpayers of this city cannot afford it. They can't. So I get the education system always wants more money. But if you allow them to keep putting more and more affordable housing into the system, it's going to get worse. Hold on, we got a call here. Hold on a second. Let's see who we got here. John, is that you? Hold on, John.
Yeah.
There he is. There you go, John. Can you hear me?
What's going on?
What's going on, buddy? Of course, you anyone who knows that this is John Melavina. If you want to know anything about housing in this city, this man and his family knows about it. What do you want to talk about, John?
Well, you were talking about all the subsidized housing that was put in downtown.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know if you attended the meetings, but I attended the first one, which this all started at 24 Colony Street.
Yep.
So it was, that was a unanimous vote. So I go to a lot of these meetings, and if we want to talk about, who votes for what, and what's going on, that was it. That's how this all started. 24 Colony Street, and we all know that it doesn't matter about the retail down below. They could care less whether they rent that out.
No, they got their
then
tax
it continued
incentives.
on, and then it continued on, and I attended every single one of those meetings. Of course, I was against the demolition of the mills, and it was 142 units, like you said, and it's going to turn into 500. But most of those votes were unanimous. It was across the board. It was across the board. These guys that thought, and Mayor Santos. I gave him paperwork on how HUD said Meriden has enough subsidized housing. His response was, and everybody got fooled with this, that we're going to let the housing authority clean up downtown. And under federal regulations. You have you say it's 2 bedrooms. You can, it's allowed bunk beds in those. So you are going to have more. And I brought this up, and our city manager, Ken's here, and I brought it up every time Penrose had their presentation. I said, what's going to be the impact on the school? And he said, oh, no, we have no problem. We have plenty of room. But I never heard it from our superintendent, Dr. Benigni. I said, why doesn't he come to these meetings and tell us, what's going to happen? And obviously, we got overcrowded in the middle schools because we took over Edison, correct?
Yep. Yeah, well, we've always, from what we're told, we always had problems with with overcrowding in middle schools because all the kids go there from private schools. They come to middle school, and then they usually spread back out again in the high schools to private schools, which is what we've been told.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you're putting in units. You're going to have children. You know, you're putting it's simple mathematics. I mean, you know, you're putting this many bedrooms in. You know, you're going to have these children going to school. I mean, you know, now we have 8 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 2 high schools. I don't know. I just, I don't see. I couldn't see where all this was going anyway downtown. But you know, that's my opinion. But you know, like I said, I tried to work with both parties on this, and no one at the time. Most people were, like I said, most people were fooled. They wanted to get rid of the mills. They thought it was the worst thing. You know, I leave Meriden. You know, I go to New York. I go here. I'm in other towns where when you look at these housing projects, I mean, that housing project generated $250,000 in community development block grant money. So it wasn't free. You know,
Right.
we did get something out of it, you know. And, you know, I mean, and the housing authority keeps on coming forward with more stuff. I mean, Chamberlain Heights. I mean, look at Chamberlain Heights. You made that a tax-free project. I mean, you know, it just goes on and on with that. But, you know, so, and that's another thing, you know, people have to remember who's the chairman? Who's the chairman of the Meriden Housing Authority?
Cabanelli's still there, right?
You know, he's a very prominent Republican, isn't he?
But and then you also
So,
got
you know, I mean, like I said, it goes both ways. I wish it was like the old days, you know. I mean, I've been going to meetings since the late 70s. You know, my father was on the council for years, you know. I mean, you know, and they all work together. It's a small town, you know. I mean, we didn't care whether you were Democrat, Republican, or independent.
and it shouldn't matter in the locals. It really shouldn't matter. Listen, I know a lot of Democrats. I love a lot of Democrats, but I thought, and if you asked me this question maybe 3 years ago, I mean, I could sit there and tell you, no, Bruce Fontanella, I would think he was, you know, straight down the middle. You could talk to him. You could have an honest conversation.
Well, he was a Republican.
Right, correct.
You know that, right?
But right, and then he was on the council as a Republican. But then, of course, he became an anti-Trumper, which is fine. I get it. But I mean, he's gone so far left now with this, with jumping on board with this whole race thing with everyone else. And again, the other one that caught me by surprise is Deputy Mayor Cardona, who I always thought was a very reasonable guy.
He's, you know, what his previous job was before he worked for the Board of Education. So he was in criminal justice. So I don't know, you know, see, I don't believe in all these ad hoc committees that the city forms. You know, you have a school building committee, that's it. We don't need high school ad hoc. We don't need a lot. You know, I don't believe in all that. You have these boards and, you know, commissions, and they should stick to that, you know.
But see, they don't want to take responsibility for it. They don't want to be accountable for it.
I mean, we have a public safety board, you know. So, like I said, I don't believe in all these ad hoc committees that, you know, they create. And, you know, I mean, we had one that was one of the worst was the joint between the Meriden Housing Authority and the city council. And that was just to get the mills demolished.
Right.
You know, I mean, and then after that, then it disappeared after that, which it didn't do much, you know, except, you know, get people to, you know, get the mills demolished. That was the whole thing.
So, John,
you know,
while I have you on the phone, because again, guys, if you want to know anything about the housing authority, public housing, or anything going on in the city, this is the man to talk to. So, John, my question is, right now we're at 18. Out of all households in the city, 18% are affordable housing. You have you have a new survey out that, in fact, they took out billboards in the city for a survey about public housing and if you feel like we need more. What do you think is the Democrats' main objective? What percentage of the city did they really want to see affordable housing? I mean, now the normal regular is what, 10%? We're at 18, and they want more.
I mean, is the housing authority pushing for it? I mean, what is our chairman from the American Housing Authority?
Silent. I haven't heard a word.
So he doesn't speak to you either.
No. So he's not going to speak to me.
I mean, I'm not a big fan. I mean, I just think there's just too much. I'm against them owning all these other buildings that are coming off the tax rolls. Like I said, and I usually keep copies of things, and I gave, Manny Santos paperwork. I wish I had copies of it. And it specifically said, HUD, in their things that Meriden is doing their fair, obligation with subsidized housing,
They've done
affordable
more.
housing.
They've done more than their fair share.
So I don't see why anybody would want to push for any more. I mean,
they're voters.
It's just, I mean, this stuff. I mean, we started this in 2014. You know what I mean? This whole with the American Commons 1, American Commons 2. It cost the taxpayers, $3 million. I mean, DECD granted Meriden $2 million and Southington $1 million for a brownfield. It didn't have to be used for the mills. We swapped properties. I mean, I've been on telephone conversations with HUD, and literally they gave that building to the American Housing Authority, and they could have sold it. People just had it in their mind. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, for years. I mean, my mother was on the Housing Authority for almost 30 years. And the only reason she didn't get reappointed because she wouldn't get rid of the mills. And the mills never flooded. I don't know. I mean, and I gave Mike Rohde the article where, Joe Marnin said, unfortunately, we don't need to demolish the mills, but, they asked Mike Rohde, what's your opinion? He had no opinion at all. He had no opinion at all. And, Phil Aston, whatever. There's a lot of background on that too. It didn't have to happen. It could have been, downtown could have been, with the train station, we could have tried a different approach, I would think. But this is, even like I said, I gave Manny Santos all the information. He could have ran with it, and he thought, they thought that they was going to clean up downtown. That's what most people did. They thought it was going to clean up downtown. I mean, it makes, the whole thing, from the beginning. I mean, we lost the park, and I brought this before everybody's attention, and everybody just ignored me. That was Cedar Park. That was a city park. You didn't even have a public hearing on it. You got rid of it. That wasn't the Housing Authority's basketball court. That wasn't. There was a baseball field there. There was a swimming pool back there when I was a kid. That was a park. And State Street property was sold. State Street property was sold to the gentleman across the street, and the city ended up buying that back and then swapping the properties and taking the mills. And then, we're responsible for the demolition.
Right.
It's like, but no one wanted to listen to me. Neither party. None of the parties wanted to listen. I got up there and, this whole thing with Penrose, sure, it's a great deal for them.
Oh, they made out like a bandit.
But the problem is, they you have a contract with Penrose. So, Bob Williams says, oh, I'm not going to allow, housing downtown. He can't stop that. Every time you give them an extension, that's in their contract. That's a done deal with the rest of the apartments down there. You can't stop that.
Well,
they've got a lawsuit.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens because now both sides are, again, and this is the problem that I have. Sonia Jelks, she didn't even know that they were supposed to be going there, which I don't know how she didn't know that. I mean, that was in the original plans to have them.
Snuck that in.
But everybody knew it was there. We've been talking about that for years, that it's going there.
The original plans didn't have it. Then they snuck the plans in halfway through, them talking, Penrose coming in with their presentations and all that. That was another thing. That's all Juliette Berdelsky. I mean, me and her, we went head to head all the time. You know, I mean, she shut me out of meetings and everything else. You know, I mean, that whole choice neighborhood grant they were
Yep.
going for. I mean, Detroit got that. Come on. You know, I mean, the thing with her was all she did, and they allowed this. Everybody allowed her to get up at council meetings and present these plans for what? For the housing authority.
Yes.
Wasn't for, I mean, how does an 18%, I mean, an 80% tax break for 17 years help a taxpayer out? That's what I kept on saying. How does that help me or you?
It doesn't.
It doesn't help us.
And especially when you're putting affordable housing there. So they're already getting guaranteed money from the state. They got low interest loans for state and federal to build them. So it was a win-win-win for them. And at the end of the day, the taxpayer took it up to you know what. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
I mean, like I said, I was, talking, every meeting, and every meeting I'm saying, this is ridiculous. I mean, do you realize what this is going to turn into? And I tried to tell people, a lot of people want to get rid of the mills for other reasons. I mean, it was a long, haul. I mean, where, people on the certain, directives of the housing authority, kept the mills there. And I said, be careful what you wish for. I mean, everybody wanted to get rid of the mills,
Listen,
but they didn't realize, they didn't, do their homework and realize what it was going to turn into.
I would have liked to have seen this sold off.
Look at the Section 8. Look at how many Section 8 certificates we have in Meredith.
Yeah.
My argument always was too, you got taxpayers that have, affordable housing and senior housing. And, some of them are our highest taxpayers in town. And, why do you want to compete with them? That was another one of my arguments. These guys are in business, for rental properties, and you want to come in, and compete with them, but they're paying 100% tax, and this gentleman wants 80% tax break.
But he had a lot of friends. They had a lot of friends. And Juliet was the ringleader to get it passed through. Listen, John, we could go through this all day long. I think you're absolutely right.
That's fine.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think when I saw you at the St. Jude's thing, I do have to have you in because I do want to talk about housing in the city of Meriden. I think it's extremely important.
I mean, but some of these candidates, I wish they would, they have to remember there are people that did go to these meetings. So when you start saying, "Oh, I was against this," and then and nobody was. There was nobody.
I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse. I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse on both sides for being hoodwinked on 24 Colony. Because Colony, I think, is the catalyst of what started all this nonsense.
I mean, I ran to that meeting. That meeting was at 5:00, and I pulled up into the meeting, and there was Bob Williams standing there, and I said, "Really, Bob, you're going to vote for this? I mean, this is another tax-free project." "Oh, well," he says, "we're going to get $46,000 from the state of Connecticut." And I'm like, okay. Yeah.
So
whatever.
It's definitely something that I think most people look back at it and say it was the start of something bad. And it was just a bad deal all the way around.
Right.
But
I really think, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, the extension of the Meriden Green.
Yeah.
We're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to get anywhere fighting them for that park, that visual, virtual, whatever they want to build. That's a done deal. I think we should try to all work together. If we really want to get the seniors a nice senior citizen center, and I spoke to some developers, 116 Cook Avenue. I don't care what anybody says. People say the building's shot. That whole back is clean. You could put strictly senior housing, put some retail, and you could put it away from everybody, a nice senior citizen center down there, and then I'll let you go with that.
Well, John, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And like I said, I love our conversations, and we will get back together after this election's over. But John, thanks for giving us a call, and I will talk to you later, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So like I said, if you need anything, you want to know anything about housing, that man has it all down. His family's been in, I don't want to say the business, but in the business of the city, public housing for a long time. And he's raised a lot of bells, rang a lot of bells to say, hey, stop. This is exactly what we're talking about, is that you bringing in this Section 8, you're bringing in social services that people are going to need. And we just don't have the tax base to pay for it. So again, when they sit there and say we're paying 167 to 169, well, how many, first of all, what's the percentage of people paying taxes in the city as it is? 40 something, I think it was like 43 to 44% are paying taxes. I mean, how much burden are you going to put on them before they say, no, it's time to go? And I had this talk with some of my Hispanic friends who I've been meeting with over the last couple months. It's like, this violence is going on in your city, in your area. And what's the biggest thing that's been causing it? Oh, well, it's been Section 8 housing coming in. Listen, I'm all for Section 8 for people who need help. I get it. But we as a city also have an obligation, and leaders of the city also have an obligation to limit it. Our compassion can only go so far before it starts turning into a liability. And when things start turning into a liability, you have to cut it. You have to. You just can't keep on this track. Like I said, they're putting out a survey. They have a survey out because they want to build more. So when I asked John, what is the game plan? What is the end game? I think the end game is probably 25 to 30%, if I had to guess. So I just don't get it. I don't know why we want to continue to do it this way. Just doesn't make any sense. Why are we gonna do that? And I don't know. I don't know about the whole Cook Ave for a senior center. I rather have it down the green if we possibly can, or somewhere around there. I see that we've lost my screen, my picture there. That's okay. You guys can still hear me though. Listen, I'm open to listen to any conversation and anyone's options on what we can do. Just as long as we're looking to do the same thing, which is better the lives of our seniors and of all of our citizens in the city, I'm open-minded to it. Always open-minded to it. But see, our problem is the people on the other side, you can't bring them any suggestions because they don't care. They don't care. That's just an unfortunate fact. And they have the votes to do whatever they want. That's the problem. What happens when you have a single party government for so long? They could do whatever they want. Until the people, until the taxpayers and until the citizens stand up and say, no, enough is enough. I'm hoping that this is the straw that breaks the camel's back with the public safety. And I think it is, because again, we've met with many seniors over the last couple of months who are saying the same thing. No, this whole police brutality thing is out of control. Out of control. There's no facts behind it. And like I said, this election is so crucial to make sure that we are stopping this right now in its tracks. We have to. We have no choice. We absolutely have no other choice but to stop it. And if we're not willing to do it, who is? Someone's got to step up to the plate. There is too much at stake. I know some of us may have issues. Some of us may have issues with certain candidates. I get it. You're not going to get along with everybody. But at the end of the day, you know what you have to do because you know what's right. And we have to start putting some of these things to the side. And we do what's best for Meriden, for the people of Meriden. We could talk about the housing authority all day long. I know I could. Cabanelli, Kenzier's on there now. Which Kenzier? Kenzier went to the Maryland Housing Authority right after he left here, which had to be a conflict of interest somewhere in there. But again, nobody cares. Nobody seems to care. That has to change. It has to change now. And it starts with you. It starts with you going out there and letting people know what's going on. We have 8 days. I'm going to say 8 days because it's already 8 o'clock. We have 8 days before Election Day. You have to ask yourself, are you doing everything you need to do? And that is a great saying that Ray had. Our children are the future, and our seniors are its history. And I'm all for providing a great education for our kids, and I'm also for making a safe place for our seniors. That's what I care about. We could disagree on a lot of things, but a lot of things we can find common ground on. But there's just some things I will not compromise on. Public safety is one of them. The emergency dispatch center, I am not letting up on. Those are too important. Like I said, the other side likes to talk about, Kathy Batista was jumping on, the former city councilor who's lost her mind. She's been jumping on the debates saying, we got to do something before it happens. Like what? Maybe a dispatcher falling asleep at their station? Maybe wrong directions being given? And then who are you going to blame? Are you going to blame the dispatcher who's on their 90th hour? Or are you going to blame the city council, the city manager, and all its leaders for not taking action and doing what's right for the last 2 years to fix the problem? But yet, they want to talk about what might happen with a police department that already has checks and balances and has a great track record of not having use of force abuses. There's no issue over there at the police department. And every stat has been given to them. Yeah, it's okay. You don't need to see me, Sue. Just as long as you hear me, and you take action, that's all I care about. You don't need to see my cute face. Just as long as you hear my voice. We are just about there, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have more shows. We're probably going to sneak a couple more shows in over this week because I think there's a lot of things we need to talk about. And Thursday, I'm looking to do a special show on Thursday. And this is going to go out to any candidate out there. I don't care whether you're in Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't matter to me. I want to have a public forum here on the show on Thursday. I want to have a public show here on Thursday where you guys can ask the questions. And I'm going to reach out to the nursing homes and all the assisted living homes. And I'm going to make sure that this broadcast is put live to their community rooms. And that given the seniors and anyone else the opportunity to ask questions. Because I tell you what, these debates were a half hour long and they weren't even debates. They were in fact, most of them were just a joke. If you want substantive answers and questions given, let them come from you. So this invitation is open to any candidate, whether Republican or Democrat or independent. If you want to come on the show and you want to be part of this town hall to give the people the opportunity to ask you direct questions, you have a place here. And we'll do this on Thursday, start at 7. And if we get enough candidates, well, it'll probably be a 2-hour special, and we'll do it. Look at that. We already got Ray in. Ray's already in. And he's a great man to ask anything about public safety. He's been there for 25 years on the streets. This is a man who loves the streets, who loves taking care of you. So he'll join us. And we'll take as long as we have. We'll take as long as it takes to get everybody's questions answered. Because you deserve that. And you deserve to have representatives of you who are willing to come and have these conversations. Because these are things that shouldn't only be done during a campaign. These are things that should be done once a month. So that people do have direct access to their representatives. Remember, they work for you, you do not work for them. But it seems that gets reversed a lot because we do not pay attention. And when we don't pay attention, you're easily taken advantage of. My job here is not to tell you what to do, but to give you information and let you take it back to everybody else, and you make up your own mind. Me and John, who we just talked to, me and him agree on a lot of things. Me and him disagree on other things. And that's okay, but we can still have conversations. I have a lot of Democratic friends that I totally disagree with. But at least we can have conversation. That's what it's all about. We talked about, the division here. The national division shouldn't have anything to do with what's happening in the local city. Our city is pretty small when you think about it. There is no reason we shouldn't all work together. Like John said, like when his father was on the city council, it didn't matter what party you were. You can work together. And honestly, if you asked me that question 10 years ago, when I got back into politics up here, I could say, listen, there are plenty of Democrats I could sit there and have a logical conversation with. I hope Holloway's on. I don't know. Holloway is still very mad at me. So, but she's welcome if she wants to jump on. Listen, I always thought that Bruce Fontanella and Cardona and Mike Cardona, I could have reasonable conversations with. That's just not the case anymore. We've had this conversation. The deputy mayor has been on the show. Great guy. I love him. Great guy. As a person, great guy. His politics has just gone crazy left. He's drinking the Kool-Aid that Sonia Jelks and them are feeding them. Same thing with Bruce. Thomas said he already knew what she was. She didn't want to reveal that during her campaign because you wouldn't have voted for her. She's not her uncle. She's not her uncle. And I think she tricked a lot of people with that, with the last name. Blake, I already know was on the far left because I did my research on her when I first decided to run because I knew who it was. And then you got people like Mike Rohde, who I don't even think he knows where he is half the time. But he's so invested in it. He's so invested in downtown, he's willing to friggin' put us bankrupt for it. Listen, I've said it many a times. Downtown is done. There's nothing you can do downtown right now. Democrats have screwed that up so much, you cannot do anything there. You cannot saturate the downtown and think that you're going to revitalize it off of people who have no disposable income. That's just economics 101. It's just not going to happen. So only thing we have left to do is one, develop the east side, which we've been doing, and develop the west side and work your way towards the middle. That is the only logical plan that will make any sense and work. That's it. And people ask, well, why is the east side so much better than the west side? Highway access. Highway access. Easy on, easy off. Everything's right there. That's why the east side is taking off faster than the west side. It is okay to say we could put the brakes on what we're trying to do downtown. And we haven't even gotten into the rescue plan. I know Dan just put up there that tomorrow is the meeting for the American Cares money. And I looked at the list of some of the stuff that's on there. No. Listen, I'm all for small businesses giving small businesses hundreds of thousands of dollars? No. No, where's mine? Where's mine? No, that's a slippery slope you're going to go down. That money should be given and used to help the residents of the city, not individuals and not certain businesses, small and big. Doesn't matter. That is not what that money should go to, because now what you're doing is picking winners and losers. And when you start letting the government pick winners and losers, you are in deep trouble. That is no better than buying the vote. That's basically what it is. I feel for some of these small businesses. I do. I really do. But that's part of being in business, is working through the hard times. It just is what it is. I think the new pumper is needed. And it shouldn't go through the CIP. Listen, this is what that money is used for. This is what this money is should be used for. If we need a new fire truck, yes, use this money. I don't want to use it in a CIP, because now, what do you do when you're using so capital improvement project is what CIP means, and there's a certain amount of money allocated every year to doing these kind of projects. But the problem is, it's a 20-year bond, and you're paying interest on it. Why would I want to pay interest on a new pumper when we could buy it outright using the American Care funds? That makes more sense to me. It saves us money in the long term. So yeah, so the new pumper for the fire department absolutely should be through American Cares. The new police cars, and to get that up to speed where Guy Scaife was trying to do that before he got fired, with the new system of doing 4 cars one year and then 2 every year after, to make sure the fleet stayed up to date. We should get that up to date now. We should get the new cruisers now with this money that we're not going to have to pay interest on. That is what, when the finance director said it, we should be using it for these things that are one-time purchases that aren't going to cost us money down the road. And new cruisers is something we should do now while we have this money, because we would have been spending the money down the road anyways. I'd rather do it now with the CARES fund. And we got 3 years, so we could break it up. So we could always get new cruisers every year to get rid of some of the, I don't know if any of you did some of the ride-alongs. I did one ride-along where the paint was half off the roof and stuff. It's like, really? This is what we're driving around in? And these Crown Vics? I think Crown Vics were discontinued how many years ago? So, again, this is what the money should be used for. So, for the fire department, yes, the pumper should be in this. And not use it on the CIP, because, one, that will lower our bond dependency and liabilities, and it saves us a ton of interest. So, again, the leaking roof at the police department, absolutely that's what it should be used for. If I had my choice, the police department wouldn't even be there. I'd like to take the police department and move it. I mean, it's hell, the city owns tons of buildings in the city. Let's move it somewhere else. If we really want to revitalize downtown, it would really do a lot of advantage to get the police department and the courthouse out of downtown. And we haven't even gotten into the mall yet, which I really wanted to get into. I don't know how long you guys want to stay, but I could go on forever. Because that came up during the debate with the mayor's race. And how do you feel about the mall and the retail going out? And to me, again, I'm going to look at the positive of it. Because what is the ultimate goal of the mall? The ultimate goal of the mall owners is to turn this into a medical facility. That's the ultimate goal now. Yale is going to redo the Macy's building. Best Buy is leaving. So that's going to be more opportunity. Listen, medical is the wave of the future with the whole affordable health plans and everything else. Healthcare is booming. I mean, they're throwing tons of money into it. So naturally, that money is going down to the insurance company and to all these hospitals So they're going to expand. And that's exactly what's happened at Midstate. They wanted to build that. They wanted to take the soccer park out. They're going to expand there. So what smart way of reutilizing the mall that's dying, but to turn it into healthcare? And of course, with healthcare come doctors, come nurses who have disposable income. Therefore, something like the stage show, the dinner theater, that kind of stuff will work there because those people have the disposable income to go visit those places. That's a plus for Meriden, whether anybody wants to believe that or not. I wouldn't be mad if the entire mall turned into healthcare and all those stores went away. Because that also leaves an opportunity and a void in the city. It leaves a void for some of these stores. And therefore, maybe we could go back to before the mall opened and we could have a downtown that had these small mom and pop shops that do these clothing stores, electronics store. And that's where the city could really sit there and use some of these American Care Act funds and give 3-year tax credits to small businesses who want to open up downtown when this mall finally dies off. Because listen, ladies and gentlemen, whether you want to believe it or not, the mall is dead. The mall is dead. It's not going to survive. And it's not just happening here in Maryland. It's happening all over the country. So the thing is, people need to embrace the reality of what's happening and then work in a positive manner to fill the void that's going to hold. And that is revitalizing the downtown with small businesses like it used to. If you look at any of the pictures of old Meriden, you have all these small mom and pop shops down there. And those only went away when the mall came here. Absolutely, the rents are crazy. But 24 Colony is not the only place. So again, it's just one more piece of the puzzle that the new council is going to have to take care of, and going to have ideas. Boscos will probably stay there for a while. Listen, they're going to need places to shop, but most of the inside of the mall is going to be gone. So, I mean, we could go, like I said, we could go on to this for days, and we haven't gotten into half of the things I really want to talk about, but I don't want to keep you guys here all day long. We are going to do a couple of shows throughout the week. So stay tuned to Facebook or YouTube. I'll give you guys a day's notice. I think we're going to try to do a show on Wednesday. We'll do one on Thursday. We're going to do one again on Sunday, and we're definitely going to do one on Monday. And then I will on Monday, actually on Sunday, I'll give you guys all the info on Election Day. Because Election Day, we're going all out. Election Day, we'll have people all over the city. We'll be live most of the day, and we'll be getting reports from around the city, what's going on, what the feeling is, and we'll talk to the people. We'll talk to voters when they're coming out and when they're going in and when they're coming out. We'll get a feeling of where people are at. Because, it's going to be, this is a very important election, and we are going to have, I don't want to say reporters. I guess they're reporters. We're going to have people all over the city. So we're going to have people all over the city to see what's going on, get the pulse of Meriden. And in fact, I'm going to try to put together a show for Wednesday that is strictly just talking to the people. So I'm going to get out there and meet with the people. We're going to get them on camera, and we'll get a feeling for where they're at and get an indication on where we're going on Tuesday. So good show, Joe. I think you definitely like talking. I do like talking. I do like talking about things that matter. And I tell you what, I like talking about things I'm passionate about, and this city is something I'm definitely passionate about. I'm definitely passionate about helping our city move forward in a positive direction and be prosperous. And like I said, sometimes that means we have to have the hard discussions. And that's fine by me. The problem is a lot of people in this city, unfortunately, they're representatives of the city that don't want to have these type of discussions. Because when you call them out on their bullshit, they just don't want to talk about it because, again, they're hoping that there's enough uninformed people that are sitting on the sidelines that are just going to vote a certain way. So, but we'll see what happens. So, guys, I will put out a post tomorrow. I'm gonna have a show on Wednesday, 7:00. We're gonna start here again. So we are in full election coverage mode, and if I can have one every day, we probably will. If we have enough great things to talk about, I don't want to waste your time, and I'm not going to waste my time. So if I get this stuff together in time, Wednesday we're definitely going to have a show Wednesday at 7. But so until then, guys, take care. I love you guys. God bless you. And God bless this amazing city and country of ours. It's the last place on earth of freedom. I love you guys, and I will see you Wednesday.
And a million faces formed together, made for elevation. I'm a soldier, won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak and believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping and the shadows could be making history.